Motorola's Moto G7 can be had today for $180 brand new, and that's a hell of a deal because it's a smartphone that comes with a decent set of specs at a bargain price. But how does this budget smartphone compare when it's put to the test against a $1,000 iPhone 11 Pro, with what arguably is the best camera phone on the market today? Let's find out. And real quick before anybody asks, the Moto G7 had HDR set to on, otherwise everything was set on auto. Let's go. In this first set of shots, both phones took great pics. The Moto G7, I actually preferred its exposure better here. The brick below provides better shadow work in the foreground, where the 11 Pro seems to wash it out some. That brighter shot on the 11 Pro though provides more to see in the greenery above, while the G7 gives a richer, contrasty feel. At 100% crop, detail on both are excellent, with a slight edge to the 11 Pro. In the back here, the G7 starts to really throw that contrast up, while the 11 Pro looks a lot more natural throughout. Without cropping in, both offer an excellent shot that most no one would notice if thrown on, say, an Instagram post. As we move on, you'll notice the G7 shows a darker shot with a slight pinkish hue. It's not able to handle the sky as well as the 11 Pro. You'll see it start to blow out the clouds above while the iPhone keeps its detail intact. You'll also notice a tiny tinge of lens flare here, but it's nothing major. Again, both do a fairly decent job overall, but the 11 Pro is the better shot. The G7 and 11 Pro shoot really well here. The G7 again with a slightly darker image and a bit of a pinkish, brownish, reddish hue. You'll see the sky start to blow out again over here while the 11 Pro handles it better. At 100% crop, the G7 just can't hold detail as well as the 11 Pro, but it's not bad by any means, and even when cropped all the way to the background, the G7 keeps up with the iPhone 11 Pro really well. Now I found this set of shots pretty interesting because the G7 really went to town with the plans here, giving it an almost neon effect. Makes it look a bit fake even. The 11 Pro keeps its colors a lot more natural, but both provide excellent detail throughout. I'm guessing if HDR was turned off for the G7, the results would have been a bit different, but again, both shots still do a decent job. With this set as me as the focus, take a look at the sky above and notice how the 11 Pro does an excellent job keeping the detail in the clouds. The G7 again is the darker shot, but both are still perfectly usable. At 100% crop though, the iPhone 11 Pro really starts to flex, providing great detail not only in my face, but with the background as well. Look at the building, look at the street light. The detail is far superior here, while the G7 seems to have a more muddled result. As we head into night, the first thing to point out is how much the G7 overexposes this light, and also has a good amount of noise throughout this shot. The 11 Pro seems to eliminate that, but is accompanied by a bit of haze. This alley shot does the same with the light, as you'll find with a lot of the following, but for me is kind of expected when we're talking about a $180 phone. Both are still good shots, again considering the price of the G7. Here the G7 really does its best to brighten up a night shot. You'll get a bit of overexposure on these fairy lights and in the back, but like I've been saying throughout this entire video, still a perfectly usable shot. Now before I get into the neon lighting here, I want to talk about this overall pic. The thing that starts to bother me about some of these night shots on the iPhone 11 Pro is how it sometimes tries to really brighten everything up, especially the area above. It's nighttime, you know? Let it be night. I think what gets me is the trade-off. A brighter shot for haze that covers the 11 Pro. It's just unappealing. Anyway, at 100% crop, the 11 Pro does a fine job, that's an awful joke, but still a fine job at handling this neon light compared to the G7. Here again, the 11 Pro lights up the entire scene with excellent clarity, without adding the noise the G7 provides. And if you're curious, here's what the shot looks like on the 11 Pro with night mode turned off. A bit more comparable. You'll get more of the same when it comes to night shots and people. The 11 Pro with its clarity, less noise, better detail. And in this last set, under super difficult lighting conditions, you'll see the G7 overexpose the lights behind me, but both can't really pull myself out of the shadows. Really, the G7 is an excellent smartphone for $180. It's not the best, but nobody expected it to be. And if you did, well, and your fucking eye. I still have to test its front-facing camera and its video capabilities, but I'll save that for another video. Before I go, consider supporting me on Patreon. You can check the link in the description, or you can go to patreon.com/Jerome Ortega. Finally, feel free to follow me on Instagram @PhoneJerome and on Twitter @PhoneJerome. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.